Hello, my name is HK. I'm a project control specialist. I've worked in different industries for the past 15 years, planning, scheduling, and cost controlling projects that range from capital projects, turnarounds, and maintenance outages. I've been in several industries like the construction, oil and gas, IT, and government projects. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you end value management system techniques. And I have 6 modules that I'll be going through with you. Once again, welcome to my video. If this is your first time, thank you very much for reaching out and for watching. Please sit tight, enjoy this. I'll make it as quick as possible, but if you want more in-depth of training, please go to my website, charpot.com, charpot.com, or you can call me on 469 650 2001 to schedule a one-on-one with you or with your department or team. So the first module here is Introduction to End Value Management. This module introduces EVM as a project control methodology that integrates cost, schedule, and technical performance to assess project health. It explains how EVM differs from traditional tracking method and why it provides a more accurate measure of progress. The traditional tracking method that most planners and schedulers use is to prepare a detailed schedule, baseline, track plan versus actual, produce S curve and variances. But you see, this technique is traditional way of tracking a project, but it doesn't really give you the accurate measure of performance of your project. To actually understand your project health, you must put side by side cost and schedule. Okay. And the reason for that is that you might be doing so well by beating your timeline, but you might be spending too much money in doing that. So you might have team members say, "Oh, I want to work extra hours. I want to work this weekend. I want to do this. I want to do that. Or I want to have someone come in and assist me in doing this." And the person is billing and they are spending money from the same bucket of cost account on that specific project. At the end of the day, they finish maybe a week before the project is planned to finish. But if you look at your cost, you realize that they have spent even more than because of overtime, having people come to join them and build on that project. So if time is of importance to you and you don't mind spending too much money, that's fine. But if cost is very important to you, which I believe should be, right? So you have to manage the schedule and the costs. And that is what EVM does. For a large project, right, you have to consider the schedule and the cost, because imagine executing a project. At the end of it, you have spent like maybe a half of the original budget more. That's not a good project execution. So you want to finish your project on time and under budget. So there are 3 core elements to consider when you are managing your end value. The first one is plan value. Plan value is the amount of money you have scheduled your activities to cost. So when you put up a schedule of activities, the timeline, the resources, you cost load your schedule, and it gives you a total amount. And that total amount is baselined. That total amount is your planned value, is the value of money you want to spend on those project activities. The second one is end value, which is EV. EV is the amount of money you have earned by doing a group of activities. And finally, actual cost is the money that you really spent doing the work. For example, let me give you a very simple approach to this. So, say for example, your project has a bank account, and the money that is debited from that account are towards the project and project alone. At the end of the month, you download the account statement, you see all the expenses that you have incurred in that account. That is your actual cost. So you can do it month after month. It will give you the actual cost. But organizations use different software to track that. Some use SAP, some use Salesforce, some use Excel spreadsheets to track the actual cost. Okay, but I just gave you the simplest way to understand your actual costs. I believe you understand the three core elements of EVM: the planned value, the earned value, and the actual cost. So, what are the benefits of EVM? It helps you to make better decisions and to make those decisions early enough and to improve accountability within the team. So every month or every reporting period of time, you'll tell your team members, hey, we are doing well, but we are spending too much, or we are spending less and we are not doing much. So we need to balance up. Okay. So where can you apply EVM? You can apply EVM in any project ranging from construction, IT, for example, data center buildings, aerospace, and manufacturing. And you might ask, why is EVM so important, right? I can do with my S curve. But look, if you really want to, if you really want to improve on your cost and schedule, then you have to track your EVM. So let's take a look at module one scenario example. A software development project tracks milestone based on track on task completed. Traditional tracking method shows 50% completion, but EVM revealed that only 30% of the budgeted work is actually done. Okay, so you might pick activities from here and there and execute them, 50% done. That's what is showing on the schedule. But the question is, how much of the work that is scheduled to be done is actually done? You realize that it's only 30%. This gives you the idea that the team members are doing things that don't really add value. And you know why EVM is very important when you look at 50% completion from the traditional tracking method versus 30% complete from EVM standpoint. The remaining 70% might even cost more than budgeted, while the remaining 50% might cost less. So the remaining 70% might be what may stall your project to go into find fund or go for funding revision. So you want to make sure that you are looking at your EVM and not the traditional tracking method. All right, let's go to module two. Trying to scroll this. Okay, module two says EVM metrics and formula. This module dives into mathematical backbone of EVM, teaching how to calculate key performance indicators and interpret them for cost and schedule efficiency analysis. So the key thing you need to understand when you want to calculate EVM is that you have to have your cost and schedule variance. So cost variance is simply the difference in planned costs and actual costs, while schedule variance is the difference or the delta between planned schedule and actual schedule. So say for example, I plan to execute an activity with $2,000. And after executing it, I realized that I spent $2,200. So my cost variance is $200. In this case, it's negative $200. On the other side, I have schedule variance. Example, if I plan to execute that same task in 5 days and I actually executed it in 10 days, it means that my schedule variance is 5. In this case, negative 5. I spent more time and more money executing that task. Another thing that EVM metric is looking at is CPI and SPI. CPI is Cost Performance Index and SPI is Schedule Performance Index. It tells you how every dollar you put into project is being utilized. Is it utilized efficiently or under efficient? Or the work you plan to do, are you doing it? Are you covering the work as planned or you're not covering the work as planned? So you might be executing work and you're overspending money. Or you are spending too much money and you are not doing much work. So CPI and SPI is calculated using PV and AC. Okay. So SPI, schedule variance, is calculated by dividing end value by the planned value. You have the end value, you have the planned value. Go ahead, divide end value by the planned value. If the SPI value is 1, it means that your schedule performance is according to plan. If your SPI is less than 1, it means that there is inefficiency. If the SPI is greater than 1, it means there is good efficiency in the scheduled activities. The same thing applies to Cost Performance Index, CPI. If your CPI, after calculating, which is dividing end value by the actual cost, again, you have the end value, you have actual cost. If it is 1, it means that your cost is within budget. If it is less than 1, it means that there is budget inefficiency. And if it is greater than 1, it means that you are getting more value for every $1 you put in. If you want to see more calculation, more examples, and more in-depth teaching on EVM, please call me on 469-650-2001 or visit my website on www.charpot.com, charpot.com, and I will schedule a one-on-one with you or with your team for more in-depth calculation. All right, moving on. Another key indicator you want to look at is estimate at completion, EAC, and estimate to complete, ETC. So estimate at completion is the total amount of money that your project would have costed you when all the project activities is completed. And estimate to complete is the amount of money required to complete the remaining work. So say, for example, your project was planned to cost you $12,000 in 1 year. At the end of the 1 year execution period, you have spent $13,000. So your estimate at completion is 13,000 US dollars. You can also check for estimate at completion at every reporting period. Okay? So the way you look at it from every reporting period is ask yourself, how much have I spent? And whatever work is remaining, how much will it cost me? So the remaining cost of work plus the actual cost of work gives you the estimate at completion. The next one is estimate to complete. Estimate to complete is looking at the cost of remaining work. So, say for example, you planned a work, a project for a period of 1 year, which is 12 months. And at 6 months, you have completed 50% of the work. The question you want to ask yourself is, what will the remaining 50% of work cost me? That will be your estimate to complete. All right. Or if by June, which is half of the year, you have executed 60% of the work, what will be the cost for the remaining 40% of work? That will also give you your estimate to complete. All right. So if you have your EVM metrics, you can predict your project outcome. So, like I said earlier, if you know your CPI and SPI, you can tell how efficient your work is going and how efficient is every dollar put into your project is doing. You will also be able to know how much is going to cost you at the end of the project. Now you can compare your EAC with your budget. Okay. You can also track the cost it will, how much is going to cost you to do the remaining work. So if you have a forecast at the beginning of the project, your ETC will tell you whether you are going to overspend or you're going to spend less or you are going to spend what you have planned to. All these questions are what you're going to be asking yourself, and EVM will be there to give you answer to all these questions and help you to make the right decision. Moving on, let's take a look at Module 2 scenario example. An infrastructure project is behind schedule with an SPI of 0.85, meaning only 85% of planned progress is completed at a given time. The project manager analyzes root causes and reallocates resources to recover lost time. Now, as a project manager, you have to be very, very careful when you see an SPI 0.85. You also need the CPI to know whether it is good to reallocate resources, to throw in more resources. If it is just to reallocate resources and it couldn't cost you extra amounts of money, go ahead and do that to recover the remaining 15%. But if the CPI is less than 1, then you have to figure out how to manage your work in order to stay within your budget and improving your CPI. Some project owners might look and say, oh, the schedule is more important, the SPI is more important than the CPI. I can spend a little bit of money to cover up the remaining 15% of work. So that is the decision of the project manager who is looking at the budgets to make that decision. Your responsibility as a project control specialist or a planner or cost engineer is to tell the project manager that the 85% of work is only completed and we need to recover from that loss of efforts. Okay, let's go to module 3, setting up an EVM system. This module focuses on structuring an EVM framework, including project setup, performance measurement baseline, and organizational integration. So to calculate your EVM, you have to first of all prepare a detailed work schedule. And your detailed work schedule should be organized in a very systematic way. If you are preparing a detailed schedule, then it has to have up to level 4 or level 5, WBSs, okay? And each WBS will represent the phase of the project, the disciplines, and the work packages. And another thing you have to do is to create an activity code and name it cost account. The cost account will be in such a way that you will group all the project activities in all the phases under its rightful cost account, because that is the, the nature of data, or the nature of grouping the cost engineers always want to see, because it can be used to interpret how money is budgeted, how money is spent in the SAP system. So you have to mirror what is in the SAP to what you have in your Primavera pieces. And oftentimes, your WBS is structured in a way that the activities flows from the start to finish in a well organized manner, but your cost account does not flow that way. That's why you need to use activity code to group and sort all your activities. So it doesn't matter where the activity lies in the timeline of your project, but you can summarize all the activities into cost accounts, which is interpretable by the SAP. So you have to organize your project activities. Another thing you have to do is you have to resource load and cost load your integrated schedule. And what that means is every activity you have to assign a resource that will do it. You also have to assign a cost for that activity, which will summarize and give you the total planned value. Okay. The next step will be to baseline your schedule. Once you have put down an integrated schedule, everybody has reviewed it, the sponsor is okay with the information, the project manager is okay with it, everybody gives it a thumbs up. It's time for you to baseline. Once you baseline it, it becomes a reference document to what you are currently executing. So you can look back and say, this is what I planned. This is when I planned this. I planned this. This is what I'm doing. This is how I'm doing it. This is the cost I'm spending. This is the cost that I plan to spend. So there is a reference to what you are doing as soon as the project starts. Now, once the baseline is maintained, okay, it's time to start looking at calculating EVM. So in some situation, you have to create columns to show your EVM, but sometimes your EVM does not actually come the way you want it. It's not like a pick and drop tool in Primavera. It will be a situation where you have to, you know, create a user-defined field and do a global change to calculate SPI, CPI, and some other key indicators. If you want in depth on how to use user defined fields and global change, please call me on 469 650 2001 or go to my site at www.charpot.com, charpot.com, and I will schedule one on one with you or with your project team. And I'm going to go over the user defined field and global change and show you how to calculate SPI, CPI, and every other key indicators using Primavera P6. If you want to do it in Excel, then you have to export all your activities to Excel spreadsheet. You can group and sort it. You can do pivot table. You can do slicing and do all the calculations from there. Moving on, let's look at an example of setting up an EVM system. A large-scale LNG project uses WBS and control account to track engineering, procurement, and construction activities separately, ensuring accurate cost allocation. So I want you to underline that word, control. account, control account. So every project activity with this large scale LNG project was grouped under a specific control account. Is very important because control account is is how the financial department and the cost engineers has broken down all the monies to be spent into different buckets. And you want to replicate that in your schedule. But you see, the cost account, breakdown of costs is not the way the project is going to be executed. And I said earlier, you will have to utilize both WBS tool and activity codes to produce these two information. One for the cost guys, and the second one, which is the WBS for those executing the work. All right, moving on to module 4, EVM analysis and interpretation. This module teaches how to interpret EVM data, forecast project performance, and implement corrective actions. So this topic will detail, analyzing CPI, SPI trends for decision making. Now you have calculated your CPI, you've calculated your SPI, and as you know, CPI is equals to EV divided by AC. EV, end value, divided by AC, actual cost. And SPI is EV divided by PV. EV, end value, divided by PV, plant value. And all these, indicators, you already have it. All you need to do is to divide where applicable. If your CPI or SPI is less than 1, okay, for example, when you divide um, when you divide 1 over 2, so say for example your EV is 1 and your PV is 2, that is 0.5. It is less than 1. It means that the inefficiency in schedule is 0.5. But if it is 1 over 1, which is equal to 1, it means that your efficiency is on track. If it is 2 over 1 and the SPI or CPI is greater than 1, it means that your efficiency is greater than planned. Okay? So you want to maintain SPI and CPI that is equals to 1 or greater than 1. And if any of these indicators is less than 1, then you have to figure out the root cause. This is where the interpretation and analyzing comes in. Identify the root cause. Why is my SPI less than 1? Why is my CPI less than 1? What can I do to bring it back or to improve it? All right. All right. So, um, let's take a look at scenario example of module 4. An EV battery manufacturing project finds a CPI of 1.05, which is cost efficient because it's greater than 1, but an SPI of 0.88, which suggests behind schedule. The team decided to increase workforce allocation to accelerate production while keeping cost control. Underline that, while keeping cost control. Look at the CPI, it is 1.05, which is cost efficient. So you can actually pinch your cost without hurting your cost performance indicator. So that pinch should not make your CPI less than 1. But at the same time, that pinch should be able to bring back your SPI to 1 or to improve it from 0.88. Okay, so when you want to allocate resources, you want to throw in resources, you have to do some analysis and ask yourself, if I put this number of guys and they spend this number of hours in this period of time, what will my CPI be? If your CPI changes from 1.05 to 1.01, you are good. But if it changes from CPI from 1.05 to zero point 0.9, you have to make that call. Okay. But the most important thing you should bear in mind is you want to improve your schedule while keeping your costs stable. Okay. Some managers will ask themselves which one is more important. Is it the schedule to beat the deadline, even though it means spending additional money? So, for example, if there is, if your project is an input to another project and that project cannot move past where they are until they get your own input or they get your own artifact, okay, it means that time is of essence. So you have to expedite to meet that deadline, that you need to supply them what they need to continue. So let's go over to Module 5, Advanced EVM Technique and Integration. This module explores next level applications of EVM, including advanced forecasting, risk management integration, and AI driven analytics. So you can use your knowledge, but your knowledge has a cap based on your exposure. So, like I told you, I have 15 years of industry experience. My experience cannot be compared with someone with 30 years of experience. Again, it depends on my exposure. So 15 years or 30 years doesn't really mean much in terms of timeline, but what matters is the amount of learning that I have acquired or the other person has acquired. But with AI combines my knowledge and the knowledge of the person with 30 years of experience with the knowledge of someone with different fields of experience or different industry and puts all that together to share with you um, um, ideas to manage your projects and to cut down risks. Okay, so applying AI gives you added advantage more than you know. It helps you to make decisions. At least it helps you with arrays of solution. But one thing with AI, artificial intelligence, is that you have to supply it with basic information. So when you want AI to help you making or sharing arrays of solution, when you have an EV data, you have to give it some basic information. For example, give it EAC, give it ETC, that is estimate at completion, estimate to complete. You can give it your CPI, your SPI values. You can give the AI tool, some other conditions. So the more information you give to the AI tool, the better arrays of solution or recommendation it will give to you. For example, you can add that that this project is heading into the summer season, is heading into um, union strike, is heading into you know um, budget overrun. He said the more you give to it, the more it will help you to make calculation and share with you recommendation. So that being said, let's look at a scenario example. Let's look at a scenario example. An aerospace engineering firm uses AI powered EVM dashboards to predict potential cost overrun based on historical performance data, allowing for earlier intervention. So you see the word historical performance. With AI, it's not just your own historical performance data, but it combines performance data from all similar projects that has been done in the world from inception, and the approach that was used to recover, then it will share with you potential, recommendations that you can take. So you take the recommendations from the AI, discuss it with your team, and find the one that is most appropriate, or you can do hybrid. All right, the final module is practical application and hands-on exercise. So this will be for you. I want you to do this. I want you to step one, produce integrated schedule. Step two, resource load it. Step three, cost load it. Step four, add column for PV, AC, and EV. And the next step will be for you to give me a call on 469 650 2001, or go to my website at www.charpot.com, charpot.com, and schedule a one on one with me or with your team so that I can go through what you have done. I will help you out with user defined field and global change. And with that, I will help you to calculate. I will show you how to calculate your EV and interpret it. And if you are still here, thank you very much for sticking around for the past 40 minutes. I really appreciate your time. But I want to tell you something, that with your knowledge of EV, you will not go wrong in your projects. And not just that, it will also help you to sell yourself as a project control specialist. There are so much that I've learned in the past 15 years that I'm willing to share with you. So hit me up and schedule a time with me. Thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.